Welcome back to part 2 of the Practice Probiotics Thrive Together interview between myself, Simon Jones, and my dear friend Lucy Kay from Mind and Body Tree. Myself and Lucy have been running some introduction to gut health and fermentation workshops over the last few months and year. And just to let people know that we've got one coming up on November the 1st, which is at Rask in Derby, at the bottom of Sadlergate. There's an event page if you'd like to come along, and you can book on there. So Lucy, how's it going?
Hi, well, thanks for having me. So we've had a good chat already in part 1. I wanted to ask you a bit more about these workshops that we've been running, and I just wanted to kind of get a bit more about your perspective. So we've talked a lot about the gut health side, which is what I talk about quite a lot in those workshops. What do you bring to the table? What's important to you about these workshops?
Well, I mean, what's important to me about the workshop is that ultimately the overlap between what we're both doing. So it's about really trying to help people understand the absolute crucial relevance of gut health when it comes to all health, not just physical health, but mental health as well. So there's this increased awareness that the mind and the mind and the gut, they're linked. There's many different. So when we think about some of the problems that people associate with gut health, we might think about things like IBS, we might think about Crohn's, we might even think about things like cancer, various like immune system problems, and etc. You know, it's across the board physically, even skin conditions like psoriasis and eczema and other things. But one thing that I think is really important, especially within the context that we're living in, where there's a bit of a mental health crisis and an epidemic of people that are struggling with depression and anxiety and various other sort of mental health problems, is that the gut is completely related to mental health as well. So there's this general awareness, this general truth, this perspective, this understanding of how the gut and the health of the gut is absolutely central to all health, all health and well-being. You know, we're talking about a situation where 95% of all of the serotonin which is produced, which people associate with being like the happy chemical, like what we need to feel well. There's like a kind of a relatively new understanding that that's actually 95% of that is produced by the gut. So yeah, all health and well-being is linked to the health of the gut. To answer your question about what I bring to the mix, so I guess I'm kind of representing Practice Probiotics, which is a small probiotic project business that I sparked off about 2.5 years ago in the aftermath of my father dying of cancer. As I was researching ways in which we can try and treat and overcome cancer, but one of the main things that kept on cropping up time and time again was not just the importance of gut health, and thus the importance of boosting the immune system. And that's within the context of understanding that the immune system is largely regulated by the bacteria within our gut. That 70% or thereabouts of the immune system is located in the gut. The probiotics, so when we're talking about probiotics, we're talking about these beneficial bacteria that we depend upon for all of our functioning. In the previous interview that we just did, part 1, you were talking about this idea that we've got 100 trillion microbes that reside within our digestive tract and in our gut that we have an interdependent symbiotic relationship with. You know, they outnumber us 10 to 1, so we are 10% human, and without these beneficial bacteria, we can't live, ultimately. Like, we depend upon them significantly. We aim to have a balance of about sort of 90% to 10%. So I bring the awareness of how we can go about creating our own probiotic food in the form of fermented vegetables. So in the first half of the workshop, for those that come along, and for those that intend to come along, you'll benefit greatly from the knowledge that obviously you share surrounding like the gut. What is the gut? How does the gut function? Why is it so important? And then after a little break, I will do a demonstration, and I will talk about what is fermentation, and we're talking about lacto-fermentation, this idea of wild fermentation, this idea that we can take vegetables which grow out of the ground, we can put them through a very simple fermentation process, which means that the lactobacillus and various other species of bacteria, which exist naturally on the surface of the vegetables as a result of being submerged underwater in the right conditions, they proliferate and they multiply. And not only do they multiply, they produce lactic acid, which helps the part digest the vegetables, making it more bioavailable, all of the nutrients in the veg making it more bioavailable. But they also produce various digestive enzymes, and they produce various nutrients and vitamins and amino acids and things like that. So I teach people how to ferment their own veg, which they then can incorporate into their diet, thus introducing more probiotic beneficial bacteria into their gut, which is going to boost their overall physical and mental health.
So it's very empowering then for people, because they can hear all this stuff about gut health and what they can do, but they might feel a bit daunted by the prospect of going away and making their own sauerkraut or kombucha or whatever. It's very simple actually, isn't it? It's very empowering for people.
It is very simple. It's very empowering to many people. Understandably, it's quite an alien concept. It's quite a new thing, and it's such a profound and potent food item. You know, this idea of kind of wow. When you look at the benefits of fermented vegetables, they're really quite. It's really quite impressive. It's really quite amazing. The benefits that one can reap as a result of consuming fermented vegetables and fermented drinks and that kind of thing. So it's understandable also that people might think that or assume that it must be quite a complicated process then. How did you go from taking a cabbage, then all of a sudden you've got like this probiotic fermented veg? People think about probiotics and they might think about expensive supplements that they might have to go and buy from a health store. I would recommend that if people are going to go to any health stores, they would go to the Fig in the Eagle Centre Market rather than Holland and Barrett and other larger corporate health stores. But yeah, if you want to, there are good probiotic supplements out there, I'm very aware of this.
Yeah.
But this idea that you can spend a very small amount of money on some simple, cheap vegetables like, you know, a cabbage and some carrots or some onions or garlic or whatever you're into, was all veg or ferment. And then as a result of quite simply, and this is the deal, submerging those vegetables underwater and making sure that they stay underwater over a period of time, that they become probiotic. It is a simple process, but we want to empower people and inspire confidence in people by taking them through it step by step, answering any common questions that people might have, and just making sure that we're not overcomplicating the issue. You know, there's various different ways that you can go about approaching, teaching people about how to ferment their veg. And I think for me personally, I like the idea of trying to strip it all back, boiling it down to its absolute bare bones basics, and just kind of trying to get across the idea to people that this is actually really simple. In terms of the value that you get out of it, you know, it's quite incredible really. But the actual process itself is really, really quite simple. But in order for people to want to have a go and give their time up, you know, it can be useful just to really try and take people clearly through the step-by-step process. So that's what I do.
Great. So Praxis Probiotics then, that's the kind of business side where you make a lot of fermented veg and kombucha, and those products are available for sale. And then, but you also have this other element where you actually want people to go away and do it themselves, and want to empower them and teach them like the simplicity of it. So, what's the plan then? What does the next 12 months look like for Praxis Probiotics?
Well, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Thanks to a lot of support surrounding the project. We've got my man Gavin in the place, who's been incredibly supportive over the last couple of years. So he's been really behind what it is that we're doing, and he's been contributing like financially to help the project become more sustainable. Thanks to Gav's help, we've been in a position over the last year to be actually providing really quite accommodating job opportunities to people, where we're trying to kind of do things in a more progressive manner. So we do aspire to do things as ethically and as empowering as possible. So we're trying to be like, you know, if we consider ourselves being an employer, then we're trying to do things that work around people's lifestyles. We're trying to pay, you know, above the living wage, so we're paying like £15 an hour for people to come and work hours that suit them. We're ultimately, what we're doing is we're trying to upscale, because since the birth of the project, the demand for what we produce has always outstripped our ability to meet that demand. So the demand's, we've never met the demand with the supply. We've got an increasing amount of opportunities. There's so many people in the community that have been really supportive and enthusiastic and encouraging about what we're doing. People that want to, you know, stock our produce so that they can get it into the guts of their customers and therefore contribute to their overall health and well-being. So in terms of the next 12 months, we've got a new kitchen which is being built. We've got like a high-grade commercial kitchen which is being built. We've got some raised beds which are being built, and we're going to be growing our own vegetables. We're still going to be using organisations that we passionately believe in. So a part of our ethos is that we only support organisations that we actually wholeheartedly believe in ourselves. So we're talking about Trinity Farm, which is one of the highest quality biodynamic organic farms in the whole of the UK. We also believe in supporting Soundbites, which is a cruelty-free, low packaging workers' cooperative that specialises in organic vegetables and various organic produce. And you know, we want to support the Fig as a distributor, which is a small independent health store. We want to support Vegan Revelation in Belper, run by Leeks Taylor, which is a vegan cafe who has been extremely supportive to the workshops that we've done, and also been very supportive about stocking our produce. It's not just about the produce. From my point of view, the fermented food and the fermented drink, that's the product that we have to help people with their health and their well-being. But for me, it's about zooming out. It's about looking at the entire context of the lifestyles that people have, the different social issues which affect people's lives, thinking about the politics surrounding these issues to do with health and well-being. It's an empowerment project. We're trying to create a culture, if you will, where people are kind of becoming empowered to take more responsibility for their own health and well-being, but also empower people to be more active. Not just in terms of kind of being more engaged with what it is that they put into their body, but maybe looking a little bit deeper at the root of some of the problems that we face and thinking on a more societal level as well. So when we think about things like, you were talking earlier about stress and the effect that stress has on people, you know what I mean? We're living in a time of like, you know, a Theresa May Tory government that's been wheeling out 8+ years of austerity. So it's no wonder that there's a lot of people that are stressed out. To me, it's important to try and like connect the personal to the political as well. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different social problems that exist. If we're thinking about food and food politics, you know what I mean? We're looking at like soil quality. We're looking at GMOs. We're looking at pesticides. We're looking at the food industry, food corporations. We're looking at their propaganda, their advertising, the ways in which they've managed to manipulate generations of people to believe that certain things that they're putting into their bodies are good for them when they're actually killing them. And we're talking about trying to kind of like change those narratives. We're trying to like raise awareness. With that in mind, that's why I'm really keen to be doing more of these interviews and kind of generally kind of utilising the website more. So we've got like blog posts going out there, we've got articles going out there that raise awareness about these important issues. I'm doing interviews with people in the community like your good self and many other incredible people in this community which are doing great things to help people, to help empower people with regard to their health and well-being, whilst also trying to transform society. So trying to take a more sort of like critical, radical approach towards empowering people and improving people's health and well-being. To improve one's health and well-being is a political project, it's a social project, it's a cultural project, it's a personal project, it's a spiritual project. So it's about understanding the entire holistic picture and trying to operate on various different levels so that we can change our society for the better, so that we can all lead healthy, fulfilling, prosperous existences.
Okay, wow. Okay, so great. You spoke a lot then about empowering people, about taking responsibility, about you know, personal and political. But kind of bringing it back down to a personal level for you, you are in the process of a big empowerment project, a big personal change project, taking responsibility for your health and well-being. Talk to me about that. So you're embarking on a year of sobriety?
I am indeed. So where to begin? There's a timeline here. I want to go back to the birth of Praxis Probiotics, okay? So we've got this situation, there's a bigger context, but I'll take it back to this idea that about 4.5 years ago, my father was diagnosed with cancer, right? I didn't really know much about cancer at the time, but I was trying to educate myself about it. As I mentioned in the first part of this interview, that's when I started to learn more about nutrition. That's when I started to learn more about the importance of gut health. That's when I started to learn more about the importance of probiotics, the central importance of trying to boost the immune system, trying to create conditions where the body can heal itself, okay? There's many different approaches towards how one might choose to treat cancer, which is obviously a very sensitive and controversial issue. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I've worked with many different people and I've helped many different people. However, I'm not always great at helping myself, okay? And when my father died, he took a conventional approach towards dealing with his cancer. He embarked upon surgery, radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and then he was dead within 6 months. And obviously it had a major effect on me, do you know what I mean? My mother died when I was 3 years old of cancer as well, and then my father died of cancer as well. So I'm all of a sudden taking issue with cancer. So I'm sparking off this Praxis Probiotics project. You know, I've been a youth worker largely for the last sort of 10 years, community activist, community development worker. I've done various other bits and bobs in the mix. I've been an event organiser, I've volunteered, you know, quite a lot over the last decade. But then I decide that I want to take a career change because of the passion that I feel for probiotics. However, at the same time, something which was lesser publicised was the fact that I then ended up with a drinking problem, which was spiralling out of control, right? So I've been abusing alcohol probably for about 8 years, yeah, for various different reasons that I'm more than happy to talk about. But in terms of bringing it to the closer to the present day, with my father dying, I was in pain, and I was dealing with the trauma of that, and you know the kind of like trying to get to grips with this sort of like mild existential crisis of being an orphan and trying to work out my place in the world. And my drinking increased, and then to bring it even closer to the present, this last year has been a very challenging year for me as well, for various personal reasons, to do with difficult, challenging situations, to do with like various relationship problems and living circumstances and conflicts in friendships and various different things, the stuff of life, the things that many people have to go through on a regular basis. And I've experienced anxiety and depression, I've been having panic attacks. I've got to put my hands up and confess that whilst this was happening, I wasn't consuming the products I was making. I wasn't eating fermented vegetables. I wasn't drinking kombucha and kefir. Yeah, so I wasn't benefiting from the positive effects that they could have. I was kind of trying to focus on the business, trying to produce the products, trying to distribute the products. But I was in a situation where I was neglecting myself quite heavily. And then a point came where I was in a workshop with you, actually. This is like a bit of a standout moment. It was like July 1st, I believe. And I've been sleep deprived. These are things that you touched upon. I've been sleeping no more than 4 hours a week. I wasn't eating. I'd lost my appetite. I was drinking more and more and more, which suppresses your appetite. And I was in a workshop with you, banging on about gut health, and I was there shaking. I had shakes and stuff because of the extent to which I neglected myself. And it was a kind of a bit of enough is enough moment, really. And I was kind of fed up with the hypocrisy as well. Like, I felt it was incongruent, this idea that I was well aware of the importance of the things that we were promoting and advocating and the things that we was doing, but I was being a complete hypocrite who wasn't actually practicing what I was preaching. And then just this idea of like my mother dying of cancer, my father dying of cancer, and then I'm like, my cancerous lifestyle habits were increasing and being exacerbated. And I was thinking more and more about the future and more about the culture around me, and just thinking, this can't go on, I've got to do something about it. So I made a decision that I was going to quit drinking for a year and try and change my lifestyle radically, take the opportunity to raise as much money as I possibly could for active cancer therapy support, which is Robert and Susan Oliphant in Nottingham, who provide an excellent service supporting people with cancer. So I want to try and raise £5,000 for them. But I also want to kind of go on a year-long journey where I'm actually exploring addiction and alcoholism, and I'm asking questions about the root causes of these things, as well as the solutions to these things. Again, digging deep into it. Okay, I can look at nutrition. I want to put a big emphasis on gut health, and with everything that you and I have learned, I'm well aware that there's so much that you can do. First of all, there's so much damage that's been done as a result of my alcohol consumption habits. I've done a lot of damage to myself, not just my gut health, but like internal organs and things like that. And now we need to go on a journey of like healing. But this idea of overcoming addiction is fascinating to me, because it's not just like about personal choices. Again, it's this bigger perspective about looking at society as a whole, looking at what actually contributes to the significant statistics surrounding all manner of different addictions, not just alcoholism, but various different addictions. And how can we overcome these things? And I've got a lot to say about those things. But yeah, it's going to be a year long. I've been encouraged by my dear friend Hannah Gilbert, who has a publishing house called Anwin House, to consider the relevance of actually trying to document this process and write a book. And thanks to her encouragement, with my man Gav Sibold, we're going to be looking at setting up our own like public praxis publishing house and taking a very, very, very innovative approach towards exploring all of these issues surrounding addiction, alcoholism, gut health, nutrition, lifestyle factors, social factors, the various ways in which we're disconnected from our nature as people, disconnected from our people, so the importance of like meaningful relationships, meaningful work, the way that we're kind of living in a society that's actually incredibly unhealthy, and it creates so many different levels of kind of dis-ease. And one of the manifestations of that is addiction. So it's going to be an exciting year, and I'm very optimistic about it.
So you've been kind of tackling this addiction of yours and started 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks today.
Yeah, and how's it gone? How's the last 2 weeks gone?
It's been great. It's been challenging at times. So for the people, for about 8 years, I was probably kicking about maybe sort of 40 units on a regular. In the last 4 years, that increased a little bit. And in the last sort of like year, we was looking at largely about sort of 20 units a day, right? So we're talking about, you know, and it's difficult to say this so open to people. I want to be real and I'm not on my own. Like talking about a bottle of wine, about, you know, 4 cans every single day. Like I was drinking for various different reasons, you know, like it was like self-medicating, but I was struggling to sleep as well. And I felt a lot of anxiety, not just about some of the personal circumstances I was facing, but the world I'm living in, if I'm honest with you. I feel very sensitive to a lot of the problems that exist in this world, and I always have. And I felt like as time passed, I was just drinking more and more to try and block that out and numb the pain of that. And in the last sort of like 3 months, as a result of, again, like what has been quite a turbulent, challenging year of various factors, that then increased to about 26 units a day, right? And that's when we're talking about physical dependency. So for the first time in my life, just by abusing alcohol for the better part of a decade, it's only been in the last sort of like 3 months as a result of seriously increasing my intake that I was experiencing physical withdrawal symptoms. So in terms of how the last 2 weeks has been, the first week was very challenging. I did a wean down process leading to the big day, October the 8th. I stopped drinking on October the 8th. That was the anniversary of my father's death. So I chose that as like a landmark, like a ritualistic landmark. The first few days that followed, I had almost next to no sleep at all. I was having spasms, I was shaking, I was having cold sweats. But thanks, and this is a kind of a really important thing I want to get across, because obviously I've been working with you, Lucy, and you've been incredibly generous, and you've been working with me as my nutritional therapist. And thanks to the protocol that you put in place, which I'm happy to talk more about, as well as various which included various supplements, certain food groups to be eating more of, certain supplements, things that I can do to try and improve my sleep, bits of exercise and things like that. It helped alleviate a lot of those withdrawal symptoms, which is something that I think that a lot of people don't have, the good fortune to have on board, or don't have access to that knowledge, or just for whatever reason don't implement these measures. And as a result of implementing these measures, taking a slightly more holistic approach, as well as thanks to the good people at Aquarius that have given me, solid dawn skill, Aquarius, I've been given some good advice about how I can make this as an easy as possible easy transition as possible. Yeah, so the first week was challenging, to answer the question, but the more that I've been sorting my diet out, eating twice a day, hydrating in the morning with water and lemon juice or water and apple cider vinegar, I've been having CBD oil, I've been having various supplements like B vitamins, magnesium, I've been taking milk thistle and various other bits and bobs. If I'm honest with you, I've never felt better and I've got a long way to go, but this last week especially, I've felt great and I felt like a different person. I can't tell you like the levels of clarity that I've experienced, the anxiety that I was feeling every single day, which was affecting every aspect of my life. It was affecting my friendships, my relationships, it was affecting my ability, my motivation levels, all of these different things, they've all radically improved. So I've managed to go from 26 units a day, which is a significant amount, being physically dependent, to over a relatively short amount of time, not really feeling any cravings as a result of adopting the kind of nutritional advice and various lifestyle factors. I actually feel wonderful. So all is good. Thank you very much for that.
Excellent. That's really good to hear because it's obviously a big thing that you're undertaking. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Pleasure. So, just to let the people out there know, if you would like to contribute or donate to my year of sobriety, then all of the money that I do raise will go into Active Cancer Therapy Support Network. There'll be a link again below this video. We're done, we're out of time. So Lucy Kay from Mind and Body Treat, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for showing an interest in everything we've been doing. Thank you for all of your support. Big shout out to Chevy in the Place, who's working on a Small Practice Probiotics documentary. Big shout out to Gav Sibold, who's been handling the visuals today and for his continued support. And we'll look forward to seeing you next with our next interview, which will be announced shortly.